What matters is how the world works and how we work, and that, interestingly, isn't really looked at. There are patterns as to how we work and how the world works, and what we're going to look at in these talks plus is how to understand these patterns, especially how we work as human beings. Everybody works in the same way, and although everyone is different, their content is different. How they work is the same. And if you think about it, this has to be true, because as animals, as people, as animals, we need to know how we work, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to connect to each other. And the fact that we do actually connect with each other means that there is a pattern that we recognize, and there is a pattern that we know how to communicate with each other. Now, this inherent unconscious pattern that we recognize is actually slowly being corrupted. That's another story, but we do look at that in the Talk Plus as well. So the Talk Pluses are about how the world works, how we work, what modern society is doing to us, and how we can actually begin to claim our power back and become standing upright, solid, powerful, and humanity can get off their knees, and humanity can stand up and become human again. What I would like to do in these short videos is just to give you a taste of the sort of things we'll be looking at, and I'd like to begin by examining how this world works. Now, as I said, it doesn't really matter what you believe, because it just doesn't matter what you believe. What's important is what the truth is, as in how this world is working now. Now, imagine you have an apple or a cake. You'll be able to find out how that apple or that cake is made up just by taking a slice of it, because probably that slice of apple or that slice of cake contains within it something which is common to all the apple or all the cake. So by understanding how the slice works, you're probably understanding how the whole of it works. And I mean on a deep level. I mean, there is a saying about an elephant being in a dark room, and people around the elephant touching different parts of the elephant, and one person thinking that the elephant was like its foot, so the whole of the elephant was like its foot, and another person touching its trunk, thinking the whole of the elephant was like its trunk. That, you could say, is like a belief, really. They're all right. They're all right. But actually the essence of an elephant has not been captured. It's just parts of the elephant that have been looked at individually. But the actual essence of an elephant would be in all of those parts in a deep level. And that's precisely what I'm talking about. There is a way the world works, and there is a way a human being works. But we need to get beneath all this apparent separation and apparent confusion to find the common pattern that runs with all of us and throughout the world. This video is looking at the fact that really what we need to be starting to do is to understand that actually trying to win things may not be in our interest because of the way the world works. We'll talk about the way we work perhaps later on, and again, this is what we look at in the Talks Plus shows, really, because that's what we will be looking at, how we work. But I just want to touch on it with these videos to give you an idea of where I'm going with this. Now, as I said, you can find how things work in almost anything. So you can take anything and examine it, and if you go deep enough, you'll find the pattern of how it is. So I'd like to tell you about a story about a personal experience. When I was a care worker, this is a couple of years ago, and my job was to take this chap, let's call him Jeremy, to the pub 3 times a week to have a meal. Now Jeremy had a learning difficulty and he liked playing games, and one of the games he liked playing was Ludo. Now I personally cannot stand playing games, so the first couple of times I did this job and took Jeremy out, he got the Ludo game out and I was sort of thinking, oh no, here we go, playing Ludo. But after about maybe a week or 2, I started to realise that he won every game. Now Ludo, if you don't know, is a game based on dice, so it's random, counters and going around a board. So in this game you all start with 4 counters on a certain place in the board, and you have to get your counters out using the dice, go round the board and back to home, and the winner is the one who gets home first. You can take each other's pieces, and when you take someone's piece, they have to start again. That piece has to start again. So there's 4 counters have to get home, and you can take other people's counters, so they have to start again with that 1 counter. So it's primarily a game of chance, you would think, but as I said, after he would play probably 2 games a night, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, after 12 games he'd won every one, and it started to get me thinking. So I decided to work out how he was doing it, because he must have been doing something that was making him win, because by chance he should have lost at least once by then. So I started to look at the dice, thinking of the dice. Is he just lucky? Is he getting higher scores on the dice? And I started to plot what he rolled, and I did this, really carefully. And over time, over like a month or so, I realised that we were rolling exactly the same scores on the dice. So he didn't have an advantage. He wasn't lucky with the dice. The dice weren't what was making him win. So then I started to look at where the counters were on the board, and because there was only 2 of us and there's 4 places you can start from, I thought maybe it's where we're starting from. I played around with that a bit, and it wasn't that. We then started to play with two lots of counters each, and it wasn't that. So then I really started to look at his strategy. I thought his strategy must be what's making him win, because it's not the dice, it's not the board, it's not the counters. And then I noticed something, and I noticed that he wasn't trying to win. What he did was he made sure he didn't lose. Now that may not sound significant, but it is hugely significant, because what he was doing was he was making sure that he was always in the stronger position. So rather than try and attack me, he was making sure every move he did put him in a stronger position. So therefore, whatever unfolded in the game, whether he got a good score on a dice or a low score on a dice, whatever, he always had the advantage, because he was always in the stronger position. Now this quite blew my mind when I realised this is what he was doing. And the way I saw he was doing that in the game of Ludo was that he was doing 2 things, and this is just applies to Ludo, okay? But the first thing he was doing was he was getting his counters out as soon as he could, because you needed a 6 to get your counters out. So obviously you've got to wait to get a 6 to get them out. So every time he got a 6, the first thing he did was get a counter out, get a counter out, get a counter out. That minimised the amount of goes he spent waiting to get his counters out. And the other thing he did was every time he could take me, he took me, even if it meant he had a temporary disadvantage. So when you're getting a counter home, once you're home, you're safe. So say he had 3 places to go until he got one of his counters home and was safe, and he threw a 3. If he could take me, though, if he could take one of my counters and send me home, send me back to the beginning, he would rather take me and send me back to the beginning rather than get himself home and safe, because he was in a stronger position if my counter got taken off and I had to start again, medium term, because I would then have to wait to get a 6 to get that out. So he would sacrifice his short-term win of getting a counter home for the medium long-term advantage of getting one of my counters back to the beginning, meaning in effect I would lose at least 1 go. Now this way of playing is quite tricky because you get quite carried away when you're playing Ludo and you think you're going to win. So it takes discipline, and it takes understanding of yourself, of your own position, and it means being quite ruthless and not getting distracted with short-term wins given your opponent. So he always had the eye on the ball as to what I was doing, and just every time he could, he made sure he was in a stronger position. Now this was really came out strong with me, because remember, this game primarily is a dice game, so it's primarily random, and I saw how powerful a strategy was given you're playing a random game. Now we played probably 150 games and he won probably 145 of those games, and that is a big margin. He never got excited, he never got emotional. Every single move he made, he considered, does this put him in a stronger position? If you look at that game and you think it's all about you winning, see how fast I can get my counters back into the home, it's a complete disaster, because you're very easy. It's very easy to pick you off. It's very easy to beat you, because you haven't got a good strategy. You don't know the best way to win, not win the game. You don't know the best way to become stronger than your opponent. So the first thought I'm really looking at is, it doesn't really matter about winning the game or not. And in fact, winning the game can actually be a distraction. What's important is how strong you are, because then it doesn't matter what the game is. If you are in a strong position, you can wait for the game to unfold, and you know that whatever happens, you will be in a better place to deal with that than if you were just focusing on winning this game. The game can change any moment. The rules can change any moment. So you need to be in a strong position, and then the game isn't so important. So how do you do that? How do you become in a very strong position? Well, this is it. This is what these very short videos are going to be about, and this is what the Talks Plus are going to be about. You can put yourself in a strong position if you know 3 things. Number 1, how the world works. Number 2, how you work. And number 3, how to apply that. So the next couple of videos are going to be about that, but please do come along and to a Talk Plus, or go to my website www.energydynamic.co.uk. Jump onto that site and you can enroll on a free online course which talks all about how you work. Okay, how you work, and it's free. And if you like that, if it resonates with you, if you understand what I'm trying to get at there, how it's about you being strong, that's really what's important at the moment, then you can start to look at your own strategy. Then there's other online courses that you can take. So
do come along to a Talk Plus, and do jump onto the www.energydynamic.co.uk website and jump onto the first free taster online course. So be careful about winning. It's not really about winning, it's about putting yourself in a strong position through knowledge and application. Thank you. Bye bye for now.